team. Tonight we're going to take you through a PowerPoint, and we are going to show you just a few of our expectations about curriculum for the 4th grade school year. Our behavior management has changed a little bit in 4th grade. You'll probably remember that in the lower grades there was a color system, and we still have a color system to an extent. It's just a little bit more independent. In 4th grade, we don't feel like the students need to be on a blue, yellow, or red in a folder every day, but we still keep the basic principle of the color system in place. The students are given 3 warnings throughout the day if needed. If they start out on blue, if they receive a warning, they can move to green and then yellow. After the 3rd warning or color change, there is usually some sort of parent communication that will happen at this point. It could be a phone call, or it could be a slip letting you know what was going on during the school day with that child. If you do receive a slip, if you would just please sign it and return it with the student, and then you can have a conversation with your child about what happened that day. There are no leader badges this year, but we will be rewarding students for behavior throughout the year with additional recess time, and we also award star points with which the students can use to buy various privileges in the classroom, including lunch with a buddy or extra center time or time in a teacher chair. Homework guidelines. These will be teacher specific. Sometimes homework will be something that they have to write on a sheet of paper. Sometimes it will be something that will be included in an online link. It could be a video. It could be a link to a page on the website. There are also times when homework may be an online program such as iStation or Think Through Math. Every week throughout the 4th grade, the students will have a language arts test. Now there are some times where there won't be one due to excessive testing or holidays, but we will let you know when that happens. The students will receive a study guide on Monday with the words they will be expected to know how to spell. They will have analogies, idioms, vocabulary words, and prefixes and suffixes. Again, they get these study guides on Monday, so they have the entire week to study for them. We will talk about them in class so that on Friday they should be fairly familiar with these. Throughout the school year, we hope to keep each student engaged with hands-on projects that we have planned throughout each subject, different science experiments, and also work that we are tailoring to each student on a need basis based on whether they need more or less of what we're doing. We'll let you know as that happens, and most of that will be communicated in our weekly newsletter. The report card rubric. This is one that I want to put heavy emphasis on. In the past, I know that parents have sometimes placed a lot of emphasis on the 1 through 4 scale being related to an A, a B, a C, a D. And in McKinney ISD, that is not the intent of our system. The 1 through 4 is simply based on how independent the student becomes in each specific skill. We would like the students to reach a level of mastery where they can sit down and do their work completely independent of the teacher. And not only that, but the work that is done is pretty near correct in most areas. We are not looking for 100% perfect on a 4 all the time. We are simply looking for a student, again, who has mastered that skill and shown that they can do the work correctly, for the most part, without teacher intervention. 4th grade will choose to communicate with our parents through phone calls and a few other methods. Of course, weekly, you've already gotten our newsletter. We have called it the 4th grade follies, and we hope there are not too many follies this school year. You should also be receiving the school newsletter on a weekly basis from Mr. Conley, and every couple of weeks there will be a PTA newsletter that comes home on Wednesday in your folders. Certainly, if you have any questions outside of these designated communication times, please feel free to communicate with your specific teacher through email or a phone call. We are always available for you, and we hope to always be able to answer any questions you have or address any concerns you have about your students. We're going to talk a little bit now about the curriculum this year. There have been a few changes in the curriculum that has come down from the state of Texas and the guidelines about what we teach, But for the most part, fourth grade is pretty much the same as it was maybe when some of your kids were there. By the time students get to fourth grade, we would like them to be able to write a 26-line composition. This composition needs to be logical and have a flow from beginning to end. We would like them to stay on topic and not veer off anyway. When we talk about writing conventions, this means that there are capital letters at the beginning of every sentence, punctuation at the end of the sentence. We want paragraphs to be indented, and we want spelling for the most part to be correct throughout the paper. The organization goes back to having a logical flow in the story. Did you start with a clear beginning? Did the events happen in order? And did you end with a closing idea or revisit the topic again? And again, idea development kind of flows into that as well. Did you give enough details? Was your story engaging? Did it grab the reader's attention? Now, at the beginning of the school year, we certainly don't expect the fourth graders to have mastered all of these skills. We will be teaching them these skills throughout the school year, and as they're bringing writing things home to work on, if you will just kind of hit these few things, then together they will be ready at the end of the year to be fifth grade writers. Reading. At this point in reading, they don't really learn new reading skills. What's happening now is they are reading and deepening the skills that they already have. When they read a story at home with you, we'd like for you to work on these few things with them. And this will help them in school when they read with us in lit circles. Analyze the story. Are you making text connections? When you're reading a story, or your student is reading a story, can they say, oh, this reminds me of this book that I read, and tell you why? Or, this reminds me of when I did this, and also tell me why. Or, this reminds me of something that I've seen before, and this is what happened, and again, explain why. That explaining why is going to be a big part in fourth grade. As a student reads, or after they read, can they ask questions which require more than one-word answers? In the classroom, the students receive question stems and sentence stems, and some of those will go home. When you read with your student afterwards, have them come up with a question that requires an answer that goes deeper into the meaning of the story. And of course, can you summarize, make inferences and connections and predictions, and use text evidence as support? Here, it's no longer more of, I think this is going to happen. Instead, it's, I think this is going to happen because on page 24 in this paragraph, Nick hinted that he was planning something, and it's related to his project at school. In fourth grade, social studies becomes Texas history, and we talk about Texas history in the past, how it relates to us in the present, and we talk about Texas history and what's going on in the present. Well, they will learn about the governor, who's in charge, and hopefully remember that. Of course, that will be about to change here in the future, but those will be some of the ongoing things that we learn about. Science is going to be where we do a lot of our hands-on projects. We want the students to be able to conduct an investigation and then communicate the results of those investigations using specific scientific language. Now, we will give the students that vocabulary in advance, and we will teach it as we go, so your students won't have to be sitting there trying to come up with words to explain what they're talking about. Once we do these experiments, can they make connections between what they're doing in the classroom and what happens in life? How did our technology, for example, advance to where we are now? Now, of course, you and I can remember a time when the cell phones, like the one that was just ringing in the background, didn't exist. There was no way we could take the phone off of our wall with us when we went somewhere. And even once mobile phones started, they were huge and chunky. So technology and science and how scientists experiment and how far it's come is just one way we're going to teach kids about science and how it's changing our world around us. In addition to technology, we will be teaching kids about life science, earth science, and systems all around us, including body systems. The state of Texas this year has changed a few things in math. One of the things, I'll skip to the bottom of these thought bullets here, One of the things that they've added to every grade level is some information about what we teach the students about personal finance. In the fourth grade, this is going to be more about keeping track of money, how it's spent, and how you receive it. The students will be keeping track of their star points, which is part of our behavior management system, in a register. And when they receive it, they'll record it. When they choose to spend it on a privilege, they will take out that money and correct the balance. And then at the end, when we have our class auction, they will be able to check their balance to see how many star points they have. We're hoping that this will give them an idea of how in the real world we have to keep up with our money and make sure that it's balanced at all times. The other thing that the state has changed that's going to be of particular interest to you as a parent of a math student are decimals and how we teach them. In the past, decimals have been introduced at the end of fourth grade as an introduction to fifth grade, and we certainly didn't teach them to mastery. This year we are introducing decimals. We are taking it out of just a relationship to money and moving it into a more concrete measurement kind of example. So your students are going to learn about place value in decimals and what that looks like and how the value of decimals changes as it's related to whole numbers. We will start introducing decimals next week, and by the end of the school year there will be certain things about decimals with which we expect your kids to master. But again, that communication will happen on a weekly basis with you guys, and we will let you know about that as it happens. One of the things you can work with your student at home is fact fluency. As you're driving down the road and the kids are in the car, just shout out a few multiplication facts and have them answer them. Now, I don't think you should start at zeros and go all the way through 12s because then they get bored. But if you just popcorn that out every once in a while, get them thinking about it. In the classroom, the students need to get to a point where when they're working a problem and they look at a multiplication fact, within a couple of seconds they can figure out what it is. Same thing with operations like multiplication, subtraction, addition, and division. Can they look at a word problem and can they flexibly think about what this is? Are they stuck using one all the time? If they have a problem where you have something unknown, can they choose to add or subtract depending on what they prefer? There are lots of problems they will be given where either operation will get them to the correct answer, but can they do both of those, either addition or subtraction or multiplication division, and do them flexibly and still get the right answer? Now flexibly also means comfortably. Are they comfortable choosing either operation? And flexibly also means, can they explain the process and why it happened? Now again, we don't expect them to have this mastered at the beginning of the year, but these are some of the skills that we will work on throughout the year so that by the end of year they will be ready for fifth grade. That concludes our PowerPoint. We hope this information has been helpful and has given you a little insight about what we're going to learn in fourth grade. If you have any questions, please contact your kid's teacher, and we look forward to a great fourth grade year.